Nobody told you the real rules. They gave you a job description, a handbook, a manager who said their door was always open. What they never gave you, what they will never give you, is the actual rulebook, the one that explains why the wrong people keep getting promoted, why your hard work keeps disappearing, why someone with half your competence just leapfrogged you. Again, that rulebook exists. It's just not written down. Because the second it's written down, the people who benefit from it lose their edge. Today, we write it down for you. Let's be clear about what office politics actually is. Not gossip, not backstabbing, not the petty drama you've been told to rise above. Office politics is a system underneath the system. It's the invisible architecture that decides who gets resources, who gets opportunities, and who gets quietly managed out while their replacement is already being interviewed. Every organization runs two structures. The one on the org chart, clean, logical, hierarchical, and the one that actually moves, built from alliances, from debt, from proximity to power. The org chart tells you who your manager is. The real structure tells you who your manager is afraid of. Here's the part they never teach you. You are already inside the system. Right now, whether you engage with it or not. The only question is whether you understand it. Because here's what happens to people who decide to stay above the politics. They don't avoid the game. They just play it blind. And blind players don't win. They get used. They do the work while someone else takes the credit. They solve the problem while someone else gets the promotion. They are always dependable, always available, always the last to know what's actually happening. You weren't above the politics. You just weren't in the room where it was being played. There are 5 rules in the actual rulebook. Not 5 tips. Not 5 mindset hacks. 5 rules, running right now, in your office, whether you can see them or not. Our rule 1. Visibility is currency. The person who gets promoted isn't always the best performer in the room. They are the best-known performer to the right people. Here's how it plays out. 2 people. Identical work. One sends a brief update after every major project. No bragging. Just documenting. The other assumes the work speaks for itself. 6 months later, one of them has a narrative leadership can point to. The other is a blur. Your manager knows what you do. Your manager's manager has a feeling about you. The person 2 levels above that doesn't know your name. And those are the people who decide your career. Competence gets you in the building. Visibility gets you on the floor where decisions are made. Our rule 2, information is never shared. It's traded. You know those people who always seem to know what's coming? Before the restructuring, before the hiring freeze, before the strategy shift. They are not lucky. They are not just well-connected. They understand that information isn't a resource to share openly. It's a currency. Exchange selectively. Every piece of information you give away for free, you just devalued yourself in this economy. Every piece you hold and release to the right person at the right moment builds an invisible account that compounds over time. Nobody announces this. It will never come up in a meeting. But watch how people with real access actually behave. They listen more than they speak. They ask more than they tell. And when they do share, it's precise. Deliberate. Never accidental. Our rule 3, alliances aren't friendships. Here's what nobody warns you about. The most powerful person in your office isn't necessarily the highest ranking one. It's the person who has built the most strategic relationships across departments, up the hierarchy, and sideways. Not friends. Architecture. An alliance gives you intel from places you can't see. It gives you a voice in rooms you're not invited to. It gives you cover when something goes sideways. And when a promotion opens up, an alliance means your name is already being said in the right conversation before you've even applied. Right now, someone in your organization is building that web deliberately while you keep your head down. Our rule 4, proximity to power is not an accident. Watch the people who always end up in the right place. On the high visibility projects. In the room when senior leadership is deciding something. They are not lucky. They are physically, strategically, socially positioned near power. They volunteer for the projects nobody wants, because those projects have direct exposure to decision makers. They find reason to be in conversations above their level. They make themselves useful to the people who define what useful looks like. And here's the cost if you don't get this. While you're executing flawlessly in your lane, someone else is standing at the intersection of every lane. When the decision gets made, they're who gets remembered. Our Rule 5, leverage. This is the most brutal rule in the system. The organization will not invest in keeping you until it believes it might lose you. Not because your contribution doesn't matter, because there's no urgency without a threat. Think about every colleague who left for another offer and came back with a counter. Every person who suddenly got the promotion, the raise, the new title, right after quietly letting it be known they were being recruited. The organization didn't discover their value. It discovered the cost of losing it. And here's the dark part. If you've never created that perception, if you're always available, always loyal, always visibly committed, you've signaled something the organization has quietly logged. You are not a flight risk, which means you are not a priority. Here's where most people land when they hear this. They feel cheated, like they've been playing by rules designed to fail them. They're right, but here's the reframe. You weren't failed by your effort. Your effort was real. Your competence was real. Your work was real. You were failed by a model that told you, do the work, and the work gets recognized. Be good, and good things follow. Keep your head down and deliver. Someone will notice. That model was never how organizations actually worked. It was how organizations described themselves. The actual model running underneath isn't a meritocracy. It's a political economy. And in a political economy, the people who understand the rules don't just compete better. They play a completely different game. The game isn't rigged against competence. Competence is just not the game. The dark reveal. Here's the part that's going to stick with you. The people who designed these systems, the performance review cycles, the succession planning processes, the culture language, they understood every one of these 5 rules before you walked through the door. They built the entire environment around that understanding. The system doesn't reward the best performer. It rewards a performer who is most visible to the people who matter, most aligned to the current power structure, most strategically positioned when an opportunity surfaces. This has been studied. It has a name. Organizational psychologists call it sponsored mobility, advancement driven not by individual performance, but by active sponsorship from someone with power. Not a mentor who gives you advice. A sponsor who puts your name in rooms you don't know exist. The top performers who never advance almost always share one profile. High delivery, low visibility, no sponsor, no alliances, no perceived flight risk. In organizational terms, they are perfectly safe. And perfectly safe is another way of saying perfectly stagnant. Here's the final layer. The system doesn't keep you stuck because it's cruel. It keeps you stuck because you are more valuable exactly where you are. Reliable, embedded, invisible. Not a liability, not a priority, just managed. And the most disturbing part isn't that the system works this way. It's that it's been working this way the entire time you've been inside it. So, here's where you actually stand. You've been operating inside a system without the full map, not because you weren't smart enough to see it, because the map was never handed to you. Now you have it. 5 rules, not opinions, mechanisms, running right now, in your organization, around you. What you do with that, that's your call. You can keep doing what you've been doing and hope the system eventually notices. Some people make that choice. Some of them wait a very long time. Or you can start playing the actual game, not by becoming someone you're not by burning relationships, not by performing loyalty you don't feel, by understanding the rules well enough to stop being managed by them. There's a difference between knowing the rules and being owned by them. That difference is everything. You know the rules now. The next move is yours.